Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Unscripted Coding. Today, we are following up on a video on a project we did just a couple weeks back. What we did was we took this wall of legal text called a non-disclosure agreement, and we used off-the-shelf Bootstrap components to make it more readable. And so we have boxes, we have proper headers, we have summary text. We have popovers to define text. Of course, we can collapse and expand text. Now, this is, I think, a really, really good first step. It does make it more readable. It does make it more friendly. But something that's been in the back of my mind, just making me uncomfortable. We have done something quite straightforward and it has helped, but we can take it to the next step. And so I want you to take a look at Facebook. They have, of course, the big wall of text available as their terms of service. And they've already tried to simplify and shorten this however they could. But if you look at their privacy policy, they're starting to change how they actually show this data. And they know that a lot of people have been scrutinizing their privacy policy. So they have images, animations, they have almost structured, well, they are structuring it as an FAQ. And so you have some very, very interactive components. Now, the way I see it is our NDA, we're not going to rewrite an NDA from scratch. It's just not sustainable to say we're going to start rewriting every single legal contract out there so that it's simplified, it's in short sentences. That is just not a possibility. But I love this presentation. Well, let's not go too far. I don't love the presentation, but I love that they have done something radically different than just put text or what we did, which is put collapsible boxes, just restructuring, reformatting the text a little bit. Now, the other thing I wanted to show you guys is a paper by Stefania Passera from Aalto University. And she was writing about how we can make contracts more user-friendly. And the thing that stuck out to me was this, her kind of progression. She took a general terms of the tenancy agreement, so a tenancy agreement, and she looked at the kind of classic version. It is a giant wall of text, very dense, very legalese. And she restructured it a little. Kind of like what we did, although it looks like she did reframe the language, simplify it a little bit. But you can see it's still a very dense piece of text. But there's just more white space, there's more bullet points, there's more kind of format to it that we're able to digest in little bits. And immediately she saw greater understanding, greater retention of the text. But her next step is to actually take that exact same text and break it up further, make the font larger, but start adding little bits of icons, start adding headers, just formatting a bit further. And so she describes this as the original agreement, the structured agreement, and a visually redesigned and restructured agreement. And that's where I want to go for our project today. I want to take this, which is what she would call restructured, and visually redesign it. We're not going to rewrite this text, but we're going to move things around, make it more interactive, shift things so that you can find text more easily. And so the first step is going to be looking at what we've done before. and trying to find out what is really important. Now, by design, we have already crammed the general kind of miscellaneous clauses at the bottom. But what can I do to move things up? To bring out the most important points, the most critical points, and the most controversial, the most modified terms. And I think this is just a labeling issue. If we start looking at, say, buttons that highlight, let's look at the general information. Let's look at the standard structure. Let's look at what should be called out. Those will be really, really interesting. If we can just start reorganizing, shuffling the text, reordering is the word I'm looking for. If we can reorder the text to say, okay, I just want to see what's important. Okay, I want to see what is the main idea. Okay, I want to see what stands out. What makes this non-disclosure agreement different than the other ones? Where are the important terms, and so on? Frankly, I don't think this is the most... this is the best text to do this. This isn't a very long agreement, but nevertheless, I think we're going to have a lot of fun reshuffling and changing the presentation. I have a few ideas on how we can do headers, and I just want to see if it pans out. So we'll take a look and play around with new designs. And we are at the best part of any project, just looking at what we've built so far and going through a quick retrospective. So I came in here thinking, there's more to it than just collapsing and expanding text boxes like we did last time. This time around, what I wanted to do is be able to basically filter out provisions or clauses in the document This is not the longest legal document by a wide margin. You can actually see the scroll bar, so it's not that long. But the idea is there's just fluff here. So say amendment with consent only. This agreement may not be amended for any other reason without prior written agreement of both parties. That is a big nothing burger. It says you can only change the agreement when both parties agree. I mean, duh. So what I wanted to do is filter out basically the crap in here. So we go with the standard option. You see all 12 provisions. And then we go into, let's just collapse these so you can see. There's 12 provisions. And then we look at the overview. So these are kind of provisions that tell the story. In my mind, you have what the background is. You're sharing some sort of secrets. You have an obligation of confidentiality, so you have to keep the secret. Exceptions to keeping that secret. And finally, you have to return or destroy that information at the end. That's kind of the story behind all of this. Now, the next piece is the important terms. The way I see this is the kind of big disclaimers. The ones that are in all caps, the big, we're not liable for anything, we're not responsible for anything type of things. So over here, we have no waiver and information as is. Basically, these big things saying we take no responsibility in these situations. And those are what probably important terms aren't the best way of saying it, but like highlighted, you should read it type of terms. And finally, negotiated terms. This one doesn't really fit anywhere, but the idea is if you negotiated pricing, if you negotiated any kind of terms in that document, you're basically filtering it out. Now, the way I did it was quite manual. And so all I did was assign these standard order, negotiated order, important orders, and basically each one assign them that attribute and a number. It's very manual, but the way I see it is there's a programmatic way of doing this, and it all depends on how you draft these documents. If I'm looking at important terms, for example, a lot of people would type this out in all caps, and I might just say negotiated terms, look for sections with all caps enabled. Negotiated terms. So we have these fields, and we might search for clauses with fields in them. And, I'm thinking overview is something that you might manually have to do. I'm not quite sure. But you can see it doesn't have to be a manual process the way I did it. The other thing that I left open here is that I kept the orders, meaning that it will always show up in that order 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And so there's never a time when governing law just suddenly jumps up into the top. What I wanted to do was think about how to reorientate this. And you can do this really quickly and easily with jQuery. Just reorganize it. But this isn't really the agreement to do it. With 12 provisions that absolutely make sense staying in this order, it's not a great example to start shuffling things around. But if you have one of those like massive 100-page documents, you bet shifting things around will make a lot of sense. So I was thinking in terms of maybe we can play around with the order a bit. The other thing that is annoying me right now is that there are sections that have nothing. And you can write a bit of code very quickly to say if everything is hidden under, say, the background section, then just take out the header. Pretty minor kind of thing. But the idea is here. It's basically, we can identify and filter out clauses that are relevant based on pretty standard ways of looking at it. The overview is just give me the quick idea. What am I agreeing to? We have important terms. So what are the big major red flags? And, what have we actually negotiated and tried to work out in the end? And so I think those are really kind of cool ideas to do things. And, the secondary nav bar, you can have all sorts of filters. In the back of my mind, there's a couple other things I would have liked. I have the standard and index, and really what it's doing is showing everything and then expanding or collapsing it. I'm thinking I may even have a different set of buttons on a sidebar or something to have expand and collapse be separate tools, because I want to expand everything here, but there's no way to do that. I got play around with this instead. The search function, this is a dummy bar, but I think it would be incredibly useful to have a built-in search feature into this agreement. And so there you have it. Again, we're just reimagining how you might write a long, boring legal contract. And I think there are so many more ideas I want to explore that I may come back and do another, like a version 3 of this video. Because one of the things that has been sticking in my mind is there a way to start moving these around, changing how they actually look. And so the way I was thinking is, let's see if we can find an example here. Cards, maybe like this one, like more like posts. So we have different cards that basically just say what needs to be said. So the card over here, this card right here, can be just the title and the summary information, and then you click into it to actually see the clause text. Because if this is publicly facing to the average person, nobody wants to read this. And the funny thing is, I was talking to a friend about this project, and they're like, yeah, a lot of the changes you're proposing makes a lot of sense, but you gotta know the honest truth. Nobody is going to read that contract, no matter how well done you've made it, no matter how clear, how simple, no matter how streamlined you make it, nobody will read it. And they want to change that. How can we make it so that people will read it? And my friend's right. I get it. Even if I streamline this very, very well, there is a large amount of people who wouldn't be interested in reading this. And the question is, what is the next step here? How can I take this and move it into a place where people would be interested in reading it? And so an idea is rewrite it as an FAQ. People do read FAQs. And as I'm saying this, I'm remembering this, where there are more icons, there's more kind of simplification. I don't know if we've really quite achieved this visually redesigned, restructured agreement yet. So I suppose I failed in what I tried to set out to do, but I think filters is a really interesting idea that was worth exploring. Anyways, I am mumbling for way too long. I hope you enjoyed this. I'm going to follow up with another video. I've decided I think there are lots and lots of interesting ideas we have to explore here. So if you like this series, if you didn't, please leave me a comment. Definitely subscribe and thumbs up. There's a lot more interesting content, not just kind of this legalese. We've been doing a bit of arts and crafts. We've been doing a bit of what do you call it, electronics. So do subscribe. There's a lot of interesting videos in the pipeline that I am very excited to share with you all. So thanks for watching, and see you next time.